Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙤 and this is DGI-396 and I'm joined by my co-host 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥. Sridharji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar, good morning to everybody, or early good evening to you, depending on where you are, or good afternoon. Wonderful to be back on this Thursday, G.
Yes, sir. And today the Federal Reserve has upped the rates again by a half a percentage point. Sridharji, I think the market is reacting to it negatively today. Why a one-day delay, sir?
Well, first and foremost, I think there's a consistent thought process around that Fed's increasing the rate by 0.5%. So that's the hike, 50 basis points. The Fed is still not happy with the rate of deacceleration of the inflation, notwithstanding the fact we finished annualized 7.1% in November relative to 7.7%, and we did better than 7.3%. That was the estimate. But what came out is this is the first time the Fed has indicated that they will continue to sustain the rates past 2003 and into early 2024. So originally the pivot was around the later half of 2023, but they may have some data which we don't have access to as yet, but they now indicate that this could go into 2024. And which means that the target rate that they're planning could be somewhere close to 5.5 to 6% rather than the 5%. Right now it's 4.25 to 4.5%. So we could be way past the 6% mark. So this is the issue that the markets are trying to come to grips with, Sriji.
Now, the market is falling somewhere around 3.5 to 3.495, including the treasury yields. Sridharji, as the rates go up, the yields should go up, don't you think?
Short-term yields have gone up. That is up to the 3 months and 6 months and 2 years have gone up. They believe that this is unsustainable. Is already every pundit is talking about a recession in 2023, which will imply that the long-term yields are going to be, they're predicting the long-term yields to come down because the early vintages are showing a higher trend in the curve line, Sriji. That is why the forecast is for lower rates longer term, Sriji.
Sridharji, the lawmakers are now saying that the COVID-19 origin, it has been covered up by the intel community. Is it lawmakers across the board or is it belonging to one party, sir?
It is belonging. This is the House Republicans, committee, oversight committee, which is now got enough intelligence and enough evidence, enough documentation to point out that the COVID leak did occur from the Wuhan lab. It seems to be part of a bioweapon program. The leak was not intentional, but accidental. And most of the intel agencies, according to them, based on the report, indicate that they tried their best to cover up, and obviously very ably assisted by our great tech media community and the print media, digital media community within the United States. So allegation or the assertion number one of President Trump, China virus, now after 2 years, almost 2 years, is now bringing to bear on us the reality and how we have been what you call, Sriji, irresponsible in not making this more visible at that point of time.
Sridharji, who's going to pay for this? The millions of lives lost, and also the fact that now, we have economies now collapsing. I mean, that's the only way I can put it, sir. United Kingdom is in really bad shape. So is much of Western Europe. United States seems to have stood it a little bit better. And, why this denial? And that joker of a WHO director still goes around making statements.
Yeah. Well, what about Mr. Dr. Fauci?
Same here, yeah.
PGurus and Dr. Fauci, anyway, to answer your question again, we go back to the DGI programs. Around the 2020-21, we covered extensively. If you recall, even President Trump had said China should pay a $2 trillion reparation to the global community for their havoc that they unleashed on the world. And of course, the suffering. China would have no bar of it. And today we have very confusing signals coming from Biden administration. And they don't want to talk anything about this. And the UN investigators who went in were denied access, and then they were granted access. Then the report itself was, what you call marginalized or compromised to the extent that, China was unwilling. What better proof that one needs to have than the insuperable or inexcusable suffering that Chinese people are going through, and it seems to be unabated. We have no data as to what is causing this. Right across China, they're not restricted to specific territories and provinces, and the cases are apparently rising. And this whole notion of relaxation seems to be just a hogwash, Sriji.
𝙒𝙗𝙖𝙩𝙤, this COVID effect in Beijing is terrific right now, in the sense that people have voluntarily stayed away from the streets, and there's a mad scramble for medication, all sorts of medication. There's not much of an idea on how to battle it. There's pandemonium is the only word I can use to describe it. But let's get back to the role of FBI before the elections. Sir, 2016, you saw Director Comey reversed himself a couple of times, and then you have in 2020, now we are seeing that Twitter, for example, decided that they are going to ban Trump, but that happened after the elections. At the same time, we know that they were saying that there was a lot of interference from the FBI. What is this FBI interference? Was it across the board on all social media platforms? Was it biased in one way? Because I don't know, I can't tell, sir, whether Trump's tweets were suppressed before the election or they were just still going on the same way as before.
Well, I think there are several questions that you have simultaneously
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, first and foremost, I think 2016, if we go back, was around the Russia collusion with Trump and interference in the election. Right. I think few DGIs ago, we covered that issue that proved to be false. And they even passed an allegation that the FBI directors were investigated by Trump. That also proved to be false. You found the person who initiated this rumor eventually turned up to be a lawyer in either in Twitter or in Facebook.
Twitter.
And then, exactly. So I think, so you have these issues. Now, Jim Jordan, who is heading who will be heading the House Judiciary Committee, has been very explicit that they have seen evidence, they have seen documentation. They can't pin their facts as yet on whether it is within the administration, but apparently there is information that has gone from FBI because the whistleblowers have given them the data to basically say that the Hunter Biden story needs to be put on the sidelines, especially on the eve of the elections. That directive clearly is established, and this is where he is heading in terms of asking all the documentation. So to your point, whether the Trump tweets, yes, Trump tweets are stalled. Not only Trump tweets, many people who belong to either the Republican or on the right side, they seem to have been stopped, Sriji. Sri Iyer included in that. So Sri Iyer is objective. He's right in the center. He's not left or he's not right. But yet, they perceived him to be right and they blocked his tweets. So therefore, you have this issue. And it's very clear. The Twitter employees' internal documentations reveal, according to Tawang, that they were frustrated and fed up as to how they can execute this decision without consequences, Sriji. So there's very clearly the collusion. And this, now you can see, anything which is to do with anti-Trump, whether it anti-Biden, whether it is to do with COVID, whether it is to do with illegals, whether it is to do with election interference, whether it is to do with Hunter Biden story, whether it is to do with DOJ or FBI. There seems to be a systematic and consistent pattern of suppressing the information, let alone around the elections. So the question, therefore, is if January 6th was about President Trump, whether there was a treason or whether there was, what will happen in any governmental investigation, such as whether it is Republicans or Democrats, it will not see the daylight unless it is brought to the court of, unless there is a litigation which is brought to the Supreme Court. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mr. Jim Jordan is going to do. He believes that he is going to take it and bring about a legislation. That's where he is going. If it comes, it's good, but we'll also learn a great deal. Whether we can stop it, we don't know, Sriji.
There's also news reports that, what's his name, Joe Manchin is considering moving over to Republican Party. Any updates on that, sir?
Not yet. I think that we'll wait for January 1st. So we'll have plenty of news after January 1st, Sriji. As the first House and Senate sessions kick off, my feeling is that Democrats are in no position to compromise and accede. And I believe that they will. Imagine if they had won Georgia. With Sinema sitting as independent, it'll be a Republican Senate because she would be supporting on most issues with the Republicans than Democrats.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, if let's say Joe Manchin now switches over to Republican, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Correct. Exactly the same outcome.
Thank you, sir. Now, the House Republicans who are going to be chairing all these committees are now getting access to a lot of these records. And their agenda is very clear. Three things: Hunter Biden, illegal immigration, and the election interference, from what we are looking at, or either COVID origin, things around that. The execution completely depends upon what happens in Senate, because the fact that's why I'm coming back to Manchin again and again. If they have the numbers in Senate, the House will be a lot more aggressive. And I'm sure Manchin is going to strike a hard bargain. And I'm thinking that he is probably going to switch. So just a trial balloon I'm floating here, Sridharji, that this might happen in the next few weeks.
Indeed, Sriji. I think to
New Year's present.
To frame it.
Christmas present.
Yes, Christmas present or New Year greetings that is on the threshold. See, the House controls most of the reforms and the money bill and many bills that comes through. The difficulty is, it's like catching a criminal. Then if Biden goes on changing and appointing at district level and circuit level judges, which is the Senate's mandate, all these criminals and crooks are going to be released because, decision making is judgmental. That's why you have a judge. So the most important issue that the Senate majority switching to the Republican is around the judicial reforms and appointment of the judges, because that could have a permanent damage in the longer term in terms of the criminal justice and prosecutory capabilities of any administration, because they're appointed, they can't be taken out. So that is the significance of the Senate decision, Sriji.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. And there'll be more fun. At least we can watch what happens, because the correction is needed badly, and that's as a centrist I'm saying this, that in the Democrats, in trying to get around the MAGA, the DACA, I think it's called DACA, and they've overcorrected on the other side, and we have to do some correction. Viewers, there are 3 or 4 very important news items that we are going to cover in the next few minutes. Please like this video so that the maximum number of people have a chance to listen to what we are going to reveal in the next few minutes. First off, there is this new term called blockchain 8 lawmakers. These seem to be connected with the RTX fiasco. Sridharji, what is blockchain 8?
8 senators or 8 members of the House. It's called as the gang. You have the gang of 8, the wanted men. So these are the blockchain gang of 8 who immensely benefited from generous contributions of Sam Brinkman-Fried. Okay,
Yes.
so they got, and by the way, there's fairly even number of Republicans and Democrats and quite a few of them from Florida who seem to have been benefited from the generous donations of Sam Brinkman SBF. So Sam Brinkman-Fried. So the story there is, when this issue came up, okay, is the astonishing. When the issue came up around March, one senator, Democratic House Representative Torres, is a New York Democrat, so no surprise, wrote to Gensler, who is the SEC commissioner, why are you wasting your time? We are in, we have a program called Paper Reduction Act. Why are you investigating and asking for more documentation for which you have no regulation? SEC has no regulation or regulatory oversight on an unregulated exchange. So therefore, please don't harass our pet child who has helped the Gang of 8 to be elected back. And he's a good boy. I'm just, paraphrasing this, take it in a hilarious context. This is the contest. So therefore, both sides are going to look into this, whether they really interfered with law. And that is why they're called as Gang of 8. If you're interested, I can read the names. I can't remember all the names, but I can read the names. They include, Tom Emmer, a Minnesota Republican, Byron Donalds from Florida Republican, Warren Davidson, a Ohio Republican, Jake, Massachusetts Democrat, Darren Soto, very well remember, Florida Democrat, Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey Democrat, and Ted Budd, a North Carolina Republican. Remember, Ted Budd contested against the Republican Trump nominee. So therefore, these are the 8 with Torres, 8 fellows, you can frame them, the gang of FTX, who thwarted any attempt to investigate this matter, Shriji.
And viewers, I may have mispronounced FTX as RTX. My apologies. Let's move on. The acting CEO of FTX is testifying before, I think he's testifying before House Financial Committee, and he says that this is a simple case of good old embezzlement fraud. Walk us through a little bit about what happened in FTX, sir.
What simply happened is that he has done the investigations. In a super, by Jack Ray is the same person who was sent in by the bankruptcy experts who did the Enron investigation. He's well known for Enron investigation to study. He's gone in and he has effectively put top number 1 item. It's a simple case of good old financial embezzlement. What is financial embezzlement? You take money from customers, you tell them one thing, but you do exactly the opposite and you don't tell them. So that's what has happened. They took customer deposits, they moved the money into Alameda Research and conducted activities which financially benefited them, but at the cost of the customers because they were using leverage. That's the financial embezzlement. That's what he says. This is the good. Rest of the stuff, there's no organization, there was no management principles, there was no governance, even expense controls were absent. People can write expenses and they get paid without any documentation. That is just a small piece of the puzzle, but nevertheless, it runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. But the overarching case is this guy should be put for wire fraud, banking fraud, financial fraud, and stealing of customers' money. Again, this is where Portman, the Pennsylvania Republican, is saying is what people should remember, because a lot of people drew conclusions very quickly. This is not the problem of crypto. This is a problem of no oversight and no regulation for these types of exchanges. So one of the first things that we need to fix, this is within the U.S. ecosystem. I don't know about what the others are doing. Within the U.S. ecosystem, we must bring this within the regulatory purview and oversight and empower one of these institutions to go ahead with the governance process. That's what they're trying to get to. If they don't do it, SEC has no mechanism. Right now, the only way they can prosecute this case is a case of financial fraud.
𝙒𝙗𝙖, the US Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy has weighed in on the Tawang clash, and he said that this is another instance of belligerence on part of the Communist Party of China. And now we are seeing that the Indian American Congressman, both Raja Krishnamurthy and Ro Khanna, are routinely now, making statements, making observations, giving bites, and so on and so forth. I think we should pat ourselves on the shoulders, sir, because one of the key movers of trying to kind of make them to stir them up and say, listen, these are all things happening, this is your constituency, you need to be paying more attention to it, is PGurus.
Indeed, Sriji, and I think that I think we have been at this, and we have been bringing these issues to the forefront. We have been relentless, and people sometimes in the initial phases didn't accept, and what's the basis? Now, well, everything is coming into the open. Well, we had a basis, but this, we are not, at least certainly I'm not an investigative journalist that Sri Iyer is. So therefore, I think that's, we had enough data at that point of time, but we need to reserve some data for, who stole my pink book, or who stole my rat, or who stole my cheese, and who is. So all those data is reserved for Sri Iyerji. We can't be revealing. It all comes out in the books in the end.
So you want me to start a new series instead of paint? You want me to do stole?
No, I think you should, because there's plenty. Now you're going to have, I'm telling you, there's going to be at least 5 to 6 books that you have to be writing. So before I forget, I really admire your new asana. You're really looking like sitting on a crown chair. And I think somebody has commented that you're glad to see them sitting. I said he was waiting. He has been waiting for a long time to have the right vehicle on which he can sit. Now he has got
it. Thank you, sir. It's just that my camera is only positioned to capture me sitting, so that's why I'm doing this. From the next show, I'll be back to standing. Anyway, thank you for your kind words. Now let's take a look at what is happening with India. India has started doing air exercises in the eastern part of the country, especially over Arunachal Pradesh. And 𝙒𝙗𝙖, I don't know if you know this or not, 300 soldiers tried to take over one armed post of India, and India was ready for them. And in the resulting skirmish, India has taken 12 Chinese soldiers prisoners.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that since you're covering extensively this issue, originally there were 50, but Indian intelligence knew that there was an imminent attack. So they were prepared for these 300 people to come in with crude instruments. So they overwhelmed them, which the Chinese were surprised about. And the story is that the consequences are very clear. There's some videos, whether it is fact or fiction, I don't know. I've seen some of the videos come to me, which shows some of these guys are running away from that spot. So all the fluster that Xi Jinping is talking about, none of these people want to be in those heights fighting for no cause. I think that this is the challenge that sooner or later will come out, and these people should be interviewed, and it should be released as to who drove them there and whether they are motivated. What is the morale within? It should be made public. But again, this, I don't know why, but there seems to be some kind of soft corner around the world for the Chinese, irrespective of all the stuff that they do, Sriji. All the stuff that they do to their own people.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, if you look at one of the videos, about 30 of them are surrounded by Indian troops, and they are beating the bejesus out of them.
Exactly. I think India is well prepared, Shriji. India is the only country. See, no, have you seen any coverage in Western media? No,
Nope, nope.
exactly. Very poor. So that's why we put the headline. It's a big issue, but no coverage in Western media, which is the only nation which is giving a bang for the buck to the Chinese. Every time they come, they beat them, they beat the hell around them, and that's basically because of India being well prepared to tackle. Even the I think that's a news item which I don't know whether we'll get to or we'll cover. The missile launch, they delayed it when they saw a Chinese
Yes.
ship. The Chinese ship, now the spy ship, was driven out of the India zone, and now
Indian
they're going to
waters.
launch.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So
Yeah.
therefore,
I thought
so I
this,
think
this is again another item, news item that India's MSM also has not covered. To drive away a spy ship is no easy feat. There was a serious amount of endangerment or whatever they felt that look, you stay here one more minute and you are in trouble. We'll pull you down. So there is a fair amount of work that is going on. India is hitting back pretty hard. Although one can say that India is still in defense mode, they are not trying to go and give a proportionate response. We have to wait and see when India does it, and when they might choose the time and place at the right time. They might do that thing. So let's wait and see. Now the next thing is our vision is not to make in India, but also export missiles from India, says Rafale CEO. And this is a big statement, sir. If India can become an exporter of fighter aircraft like Rafale, that's a big deal.
indeed, Sriji, I think this was long overdue, and it has come because there's a lot of adversarial press that came out. Well, Rafael is expensive, etc., etc. Now, France is trying to win away having got the deal, etc. No, Rafael is going to be a strategic asset for India. The Rafael as a company for India is going to be a strategic venue because they see capital being deployed, they see capabilities being deployed, they see India's ability to build on top of a platform, not necessarily maybe fundamental research, but what they can do to the Rafael platform in terms of equipping and using it. I think there's going to be a lot or more information that is going to come out. And so therefore, I think this is a very big news, Srijit. Yeah, Rafael CEO's profound statement in India. Very big statement.
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of logistics that goes into making a plane as complicated as Rafale, and somebody has done the groundwork, and they have figured out that India can supply all these, small, medium, large kinds of components, and then that takes a lot of work, and also the fact that India is ready to do that speaks volumes. So let's wish them the best of luck, and then let's take a look at what has been happening with the OIC chief's visit to Pak-occupied Kashmir. India has roundly slammed Pakistan and said that OIC has become, slammed OIC and said that OIC has become a mouthpiece of Pakistan. This mischief mongering that Pakistan involves in, it's not even their money, I don't think. I think it is, funding from other countries such as Qatar. So there is one other serious thing that I've been hearing, and I'd like you to do a segment on that, sir, and that is the rise of Wahhabism and the control of Wahhabism being moved over from Saudi Arabia to Turkey. This is something that's a new phenomenon. We're going to talk about this, and Sridharji will do his diligent work, and we'll come back with you and share with you on this. This is a very important topic. Don't miss that. Now, Sridharji, next topic is even at the United Nations, India's MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, has slammed Pakistan and China and lays out India's norms for NORMS. Sir, please expand this and explain to our viewers what that means.
It is new normal for reformed multilateralism or multilateral systems. What he's saying is central platforms are being used, such as United Nations, arbitrarily being used as forums for justifying actions which in many other formats would not work. For example, you take Human Rights Commission. They blame Israel But on the contrary, nothing is done about what is happening in Uyghur or let us say in some other parts of the world. So
Right.
similarly, sanctions being imposed for certain actions. One nation gets sanctions, the other nation gets no actions. Human rights violation. Well, China is in human rights and Saudi is the chair for the Human Rights Commission. So he's saying this is the reason why you need a reformed platform for multilateral systems where you have a rules-based mechanism to objectively judge rather than the current UN. And the current UN is faulty and it has not reformed itself for time immemorial. Some time ago, about 3-4 years ago, I was also in discussions with then Secretary General with Mr. Ban Ki-moon, with a bunch of people to see what needs to happen, because disruptive change affects everybody. How come United Nations has refused to change? I think that's the scope that we were looking at. But then, United Nations is a big behemoth. It doesn't move that fast. So this is what India is saying. We don't care, but this platform is irrelevant.
And ASEAN and EU are moving closer, striking deals worth billions, and they are also committing themselves to clean energy. So this clean energy has become a laughing stock, because why I say that is, on the one hand, you're talking about clean energy. On the other side, the very countries who are saying that we need to have clean energy are burning coal to produce their own electricity, driven out of the war between Russia and Ukraine, sir.
Yes. So this is the fun part, sir. So then I'll give you the real part. The fun part is we at PGurus support clean energy, and we are in
Right.
clean environment. And so therefore we operate in a clean technology platform. So are you going to give us $1 million so we can build a better PGurus platform and continue to be, clean energy compliant? So that's one kind of positive spin we can give, Shriji, because clean energy is all about raising capital. All you need to do is come up with few things, just like the chair that you are sitting in. Because you are now sitting in the chair, you are emitting less carbon dioxide, Shriji. Because if you are standing, you are emitting more carbon dioxide because your body is working hard. Okay, so we are doing everything possible to be clean energy compliant. That's all it is. Okay, so therefore they're coming up with every mechanism to push billions and billions and billions of dollars. And our good Vietnamese friends, they said, now here's an opportunity, because they want manufacturing to shift from China to Vietnam. So they are going to be recipient of billions of dollars to be clean energy compliant.
Sir, I don't mind just getting $1 million or $2 from these people, and I promise to be clean, sir. I promise to. If they want, I will sit in Padmasana and do the show, sir. I have no problem with that, because that is like descending to the lowest possible level to do the show, to conserve energy and stay green. I'm happy to do that, and I can even probably convince all our guests to do the same. and move on with it. But I'm just, we're talking this in jest. There is some serious commitment that is required. Clean energy is the way to go, but not all countries seem to want to do this thing. There is a very uneven interpretation and application of law in all these things. So it's very, very sad that thing is happening. Let's move on. China's embrace of Saudi Arabia and a joint declaration with GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, where it lists Iran as a supporter of terrorist groups and a proliferator of drones and a threat to regional stability. Sir, how can China coexist with both Saudi Arabia and Iran?
I think they have written there. Shriji, you have disappeared from the screen. I can't see you, Shriji. Hello? Hello? I think we'll wait for a second for Shriji to pop back before we respond to the question that he has posed. Hello? Thanks, Sachin.
I apologize. I had a phone call and I had to stop that, and that's why it went dark. So, did you hear the question that I had, sir?
Yes, I think how can China coexist both
Yeah,
with the Saudi
right,
and
right, right.
Iran? Uh, the the answers that are coming out from the intelligence community and our own research is the West Asia Accords or Abrahamic Accords has been cold-shouldered by Biden, and he has cold-shouldered the Saudis and the UAE and so on. So China is leveraging this opportunity to get closer, okay? And in the process, I think it is trying to strike an energy deal with the Saudis, and Saudis need capital to be deployed. The entire Middle East probably spends close to 30 to 35% of its capital, that is the sovereign fund, in other countries which generate attractive investment income because there's no taxes in any of these countries. So China is eyeing this and trying to fill the gap and basically see whether it can embrace that relationship and build a strategic partnership. I mean, Iran, in comparison to the GCC, is nothing from an economic context. So it will be prepared to shun Iran and then move forward with the GCC countries led by Saudis. Look at the statements: perpetrator of a proliferator of troubles, use of drones, their nuclear aspirations need to be assessed, etc. So this is a very provocative statement that has come out as part of the joint release, which you generally don't see from China. So clearly, I think that there is some game going on here, Sriji.
Now, see, this is very interesting, Sridharji. I used to have an aunt. I mean, I still have. She's still my aunt, and two children. Both children will be on. Each will be on each hand, and they would want to be carried at the same time. And then once they are on their mother's hand, each will try to push the other one off. You see what I'm saying? And that's how I see this
Exactly.
whole position.
Indeed. See, my if you recall, to go back to some DGIs and go back to a couple of DGIs, go back to the first ones. We said the only way there will be a resolution to the Russian problems is that Russia sitting down with the EU and solving the problem. Okay, that's one
Right.
thing that we laid out. The second thing that we laid out, which you tried to, is the new alliance in Indo-Pacific will be somewhere Russia will come into play. You know, it's like Russia,
Yes. Yes.
Japan, Vietnam, Korea, and Australia, and so on. So what you're beginning to see is the vacuum as well as the incompetency of the United States administration is leading to various complicated realignment of geopolitical forces, all with economics in as the one single context. Chinese economy, I'm sure Mr. Elmer Yuan has covered, Chinese economy is collapsing. The numbers are
Yes. Yes.
fabricated. Their
Yes.
manufacturing is down. Their consumer demand, consumer demand has dipped. There is flight of capital from China, which is not being reported. Plus, their debt is spiraling. The real estate sector is not doing very well, and they really need capital. Because they are not wanted in global capital markets. Their companies are not getting listed. Many of these people are fleeing and trying to take shelter in other countries. So they have to quote nations such as this, not only to get their energy supply, but as well as to get investment dollars into China. So this is what the realignment taking place because of the leadership vacuum that you see in the United States, Sriji.
Absolutely, sir. I couldn't agree with you more. Quickly, Russia continues to pound Ukraine with drones, and the United States is going to give more smart bombs to Ukraine. So this conflict is going to continue for some more time. India continues to enjoy a very favorable pricing compared to the EU price cap of $60 per barrel of crude. So I'm hoping that the prices at the pump in India will start going down. That's a very important statement that the Modi government needs to do. I don't know if they'll do it or not. Sridharji, your comments, and then we can call it a wrap.
Well,
We
I
can call
think
it a show.
if you remember, some people felt that the price gap. We were the first people to announce that India is buying below the $60,
Right.
especially the Russian morals. And now I can say this much: at least three other people who have backed me in this statement, which is to say that Russia is supplying plenty of fuel to India, and it is doing so at way below the $60 cap. Okay, and so therefore, that's the reality, which is very good, and that's the reason why India is controlling its inflation. Very soon, we will see, that murals being refined and exported to some other nations. And that's one good way, without saying in so many words, one good way to break the gridlock in terms of the bans.
Thank you very much, sir. And that calls a wrap for today. We'll be back again over the weekend, time permitting, to talk to you about the markets or news updates over the weekend. Thank you very much, Sridharji. Namaskar. And please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. I think there's a number of questions on economic related matters that came up.
Yeah. Can we have the questions, please? We can go ahead and answer that. Go ahead and answer that. I just have to step for 1 second. Questions.
What kind of effect do you think the Fed have on the market, specifically tech sector in US? Well, I think there is a complete correlation. They want employment to be brought. They want unemployment to go up. They really want unemployment to go up. They're not satisfied even with 4%. They're looking at 7% number. So is there going to be a Fed? Yeah, they're forcing a recession. They feel that if they have an unemployment number in mind, there are three things that Fed is looking at as part of its policy. First and foremost, they are looking at is the supply chain. The second they're looking at is they want the housing market to cool. So they're trying to force the housing market to cool by increasing the prices. But the most important variable, which is going to cause recession, is the labor market. They are not satisfied. They want a labor market at an unemployment rate of 7%. And that number has just inched up from 3.2 to 4. You are also going to see wage contraction because the tech industry is going to repurpose or retune their compensation bills because there's no demand coming from the industry sector. So yes, the answer is yes, there is a direct consequence. And number of H-1B, if you're in the United States, number of H-1B people are running from pillar to post in terms of trying to figure out as to how to find a job as a result of the layoffs of all these companies, whether it is Twitter, whether it is Facebook, whether it is Amazon, whether it is Alphabet, whether it is Microsoft. They're trying to find a place so that they can preserve the visa. The answer is yes, Sriji.
Next question from Chaitanya Takli. How severe is the Walmart crisis?
Walmart crisis where? In India or in United States?
I think it is Walmart in India. Yeah, it's India. US is doing fine.
Walmart is not. Walmart has. I mean, in United States, their sales has gone up. They're reporting higher sales. Yes, they have a labor problem which they're trying to address. They have a supply chain problem which they're trying to address through NAFTA, which is through the adjacent. So I don't know whether they also, I am told, in India, which I can, they are trying to fill the gap of Amazon in augmenting their support for the SME ecosystem. And they're going to use the SME ecosystem to augment their produce rather than one single supplier model, which used to be the case in the historical Walmart context. So that would be my macro answer. I can look at the micro, but I'm not seeing the headline news on Walmart crisis.
Yes. And Magnet Ranga wants to know, Namaskaram, is the timing of the Chinese intrusion planned with Parliament meet in mind?
No, the answer is that this is fairly well known. They want to use their spy ships to track the launch pads, the launch areas, the coordinates, etc. I think this is what India is trying to stop, whether it is launched on ground, whether it is launched from the hypersonic tunnels, whether it is from submarines. India doesn't want to disclose. The spy ship is there basically to monitor this. And this is the reason why India is reluctant and asking them to get out.
And Sharkfish, a lot of questions today. Is the shopping rates for sellers, supporters to US going down anytime soon, or are we going to stop and blame the Ukraine war? I don't know what this means. Shipping rates for seller, exporters. Shipping rates, not shopping rates.
Okay, the shipping rates for not in the near term, because the insurance costs are as a result of uncertainties around blockages, uncertainties around the capabilities to land at ports, and the de-shipment. So there is a lot of issues, not just purely because of the Ukraine war alone, but COVID and countries trying to return to normalcy. The biggest problem that we have in the United States itself is we have logistics problems around the clearance of the containers, which are near shore to our ports in the United States. It's not necessarily, at least we don't see it line of sight in the next 3 to 6 months. Possibly things will improve after.
And next question, Dictator 12321. Can India attract cheap capital from Japan? India is still not attracting global debit funds or debt funds.
India is reluctant to attract debt funds. I think we covered this.
Yes, indeed, we have.
Yeah, so India is not favorable for. Well, I think, to be honest, I mean, India has gone up from about 23, 24, or 25, or even 30 million. Let us take it around 2013 in terms of FDI to about close to $90 billion annual run rate. So capital is coming in. The PLI programs have attracted capital. It is the only emerging market which is in the sub 6% or 6% plus or 7% plus, whichever way, in terms of the economic growth. It is. I asked a simple question: would you invest? You put your capital in a $19 to $21 trillion economy, or a $16 to $19 trillion economy, or would you put your money on a $3 trillion to a $6 trillion economy? The answer is very simple. A dollar, when you put in 3 trillion going up to 6 trillion, it doubles. When you go from $19 trillion to 21 trillion, your dollar gets only about 10% return. This is the reason why money is flowing into India, because they see the economic trajectory. And when that is the case, you don't need to create a debt fund. This is the position India has taken. As far as the capital from Japan, Japan is a big donor to India. They have significant amount of capital flowing in. They have commitments on infrastructure projects. They have commitment on the railway projects. Even Saudis have committed significant amount of capital for logistics and infrastructure. So India is not going to be shy of capital. India's challenge is going to be execution, logistics, and internal politics. I think this is the issue. And then, of course, they have still a long way to go in the governance and the operationalization of business processes and platforms. Still, it's a very slow process on things coming into India in terms of, I myself have experienced it. When we want to take money out, exit out of an investment and take money out, we have to get tax permission, having paid the tax. Then we have to get RBI's permission. Only then, we can, what the money that we have received, we can distribute to people. Not a very trivial process.
Yes, indeed. And viewers, to know more about Sun Tzu's Art of War book and how China approaches its politics, I've done a recording session with Derek Yuan. If the last name sounds familiar, yes, it is. He's the son of Elmer Yuan, and those interviews will air in the next few days. Do listen in, and you understand a lot more about how China looks at war. And they have this strategy called war and peace at the same time. This is a new paradigm that most of the West is waking up to now. You have now the United States saying strategic ambiguity, and that's the same thing. So a lot of stuff talked about. So do tune in to listen to that one. And Sridharji, thank you so much, sir. We'll be back again very shortly with the next segment. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and wonderful evening.